Computer Chronicles is brought to you by BigStar.com, with thousands of videos and DVDs for the whole family. Additional support by TechWeb for up-to-the-minute technology news. And by TVA, Television Associates, bridging the worlds of computers and video with DVD authoring and MPEG encoding services.
That big white ship sitting here in the Monaco harbor is the yacht belonging to Larry Ellison, CEO of Oracle. There's still a pretty good battle going on between Oracle, its ally Sun, and Microsoft over the future of computing. Larry Ellison and Bill Gates have rather different perspectives.
These are not easy times for the chairman of Microsoft. With the federal court finding that Microsoft is a monopoly, the world's largest software company is facing some of the most difficult challenges of its existence. The irony is that while the government is now on the attack, most of Microsoft's competitors have stopped ganging up on the software giant.
I think if you go back to the days of Borland and Ashton Tate, there was some ganging up going on. I think Novell in particular, as they approached other people in the industry, the whole thing about buying WordPerfect, there was a lot of cabal type stuff back in those days. Today I'd say there isn't much of that. I mean, believe me, the people at eBay are doing what's great for eBay, the people at Amazon are doing what's great for Amazon. Same thing at the computer companies. Everybody's got a challenging position, and so nobody sits down and says, okay, our whole goal is to hurt some other company. They sit down and say, what are we doing for customers? Could we work with Microsoft to do that better? Could we work with somebody else to do it better? So as we come along with scalable servers, with natural language, with a good TV strategy, we see incredible open-mindedness. I don't run into much religious fervor.
Part of the reason may be because Microsoft's traditional attackers, Sun and Oracle, have their own problems. Sun's Java has been very successful, but among Java developers attending this conference, the feeling was that Sun has misstepped with Java as much as Microsoft has gone overboard with Windows.
Absolutely. The feeling is that Sun's stewardship of the technology has been a little less than optimal, and maybe a lot less than optimal, although they've done a great deal to move it forward. There was unanimity, I think, in the audience that Sun should just open source Java, and I did a poll. I said, how many think Sun should open source it? Everyone raised their hand. Then I said, how many think Sun will open source it? And nobody raised their hand. So.
But Java is making headway and attracting programmers who have migrated from using Windows and C++ as a development platform.
The fact that it's becoming a mature technology that actually works, it is far and away becoming the most widely used, or not widely used, but one of the most popular serious programming languages in the enterprise particularly, and for web kinds of things. Programmers love it, and they get vastly greater productivity out of it than C++.
Oracle, Microsoft's other nemesis, has been struggling with its own repositioning to take advantage of the Internet. But Oracle President Ray Lane says that his boss, Larry Ellison, was right back in 1996 when he first challenged the Microsoft-Bill Gates approach to computing.
He listened to what the leader was saying in the PC world and saying, this can't take us to where we have to go, and that's getting everybody on the Internet. Everybody can't operate a PC. Everybody can't afford a PC. The complexity is just... So he made up his mind right there and then, I think, and went up and said, it's over. Now, as Larry likes to do, I mean, it's 3 years later when people start saying, well, maybe it is over. And then now, but right now, I think we're seeing the entire world turn on to this concept and saying, he was right. He was right. It had nothing to do with network computers. It had to do with appliances that can use the Internet, whether it's a TV, it's a telephone, it's a PC, whatever it is, it's your choice to use it, but it must operate with a standard browser. The user interface must be standard, otherwise we cannot get everybody on the Internet.
Everyone concedes that Bill Gates moved quickly and effectively in turning Microsoft into a more Internet-oriented company. But Gates says despite many of the temptations of the internet, Microsoft will stay focused on its core competency, software.
We're going to stick to writing software. That's what we know best, and there's certainly plenty of challenges in doing that. And so it's fascinating, when we first got going on the internet, we had very smart people coming to us and saying, well, you know, one of the big things in the internet is going to be, let me take for, as an example, travel. And so they said they had a vision of developing software that would let you pick the best fare, that would let you see the hotels, that would let you have your preferences be used so you'd always see the stuff that you care about. And that was very exciting, you know, that it was a very challenging software project.
Gates was tempted to go overboard on the internet and get into content and e-commerce, especially with successes like Expedia, but he had second thoughts.
The dynamics of Expedia's success strayed away from pure software. As soon as the Expedia guys come into my office and say, you know what's so exciting is we should pre-book a lot of hotels and get cheap rates, and we should pre-book planes. Then I say, is this software? Do I know anything about this? I could offend people and lose money at the same time.
Alex Vieux, the host of this ETRE conference, thinks Gates made the right decision.
Microsoft cannot be doing everything. He has decided to focus his energy on one aspect, which is the software that the company does best. He doesn't want Microsoft to be a media company, doesn't want Microsoft to be a travel company, doesn't want Microsoft to be a car company, a booking company, or an auction company. He wants Microsoft to be a software company.
In public speeches for the past year, Bill Gates has been echoing the theme of his book, Business at the Speed of Thought, arguing for what he calls a digital nervous system for business, a final thrust toward the paperless office. Several exhibitors here at ETRE were taking Gates seriously. This is new optical character recognition software from Iris, a Belgian company. This new OCR program not only recognizes words, it can exactly carry through fonts, type sizes, and printing styles into the electronic document. It's also fast, able to scan in a few seconds what it would take a typist an hour to do. The Iris software does context-sensitive recognition in 55 different languages, even handling Asian and Cyrillic fonts. The software also recognizes tables and spreadsheets, sending full functionality back to Excel. A product called StoreEdge from Exegetics takes OCR'd documents one step further. With StoreEdge, you can quickly scan in every paper document in your office and then run them through the StoreEdge software, which automatically creates a searchable database for all the documents so you never have to touch the paper again. You can even do electronic highlighting and annotating. Bill Gates isn't commenting much on the court's finding that Microsoft is a monopoly, but most of the executives and journalists here at ETRE had the view that the government's action against Microsoft came too late, and that because of the internet, the industry has already corrected for Microsoft and adjusted its strategy.
It's kind of amazing, too, when you think about it. When we talk to a startup, we never ask the question, well, what's IBM going to do? Well, is Microsoft going to take your business, right? 5 years ago, that was all the questions. Why isn't Microsoft going to own this? They own everything, ultimately, don't they? If you're a software company, especially, right? And now, we don't even give a second thought to an incumbent. It's always, how can you outrun the 6 other startups we know are down the street, you know, because we got their business plans, and the 30 others that we don't know about, you know, that are lurking out there.
But Dan Gilmore says while the internet and the advent of web-based applications are a challenge to Microsoft, they are not a serious threat.
The net is a threat to their traditional business model, but they're a highly adaptable company and they have infinite resources because they still have a monopoly on desktop computing that is going to give them plenty of money to invest in what they don't already have. So anyone who thinks that they're in any serious jeopardy is just not reading the balance sheet.
Of course, everything may change depending on the final outcome of the Microsoft antitrust case. But regardless of the outcome, Microsoft is now a changed company.
You can't deny that Microsoft has played some very heavy-handed games with its very powerful position in several markets, primarily the operating system market. And I think it's still we're just about to start seeing some results in the government antitrust trial, and I think depending on how the final outcome is determined in the trial, if Microsoft gets off, they will still be a threatening presence. I doubt if they will get off to the degree that they can do that. They will have their hands slapped at least. And so I think because the government's eyes are on them so carefully now, I think a lot of the companies, everybody except for Sun, seems to be a little less worried about the threat of Microsoft hegemony.
Indeed, Microsoft and Bill Gates himself are quite different than they were just a few years ago. For Gates personally, a family, and perhaps maturity have changed him.
The guy is really mellow. He has mellowed out. He's a changed person. I think it's parenting, and I think he's getting a lot of satisfaction from his philanthropy and his, at a massive scale of $17 billion so far this year that he's giving to his foundations and giving away eventually. But what's really interesting is that while he seems personally more mellow and a little more relaxed, as a competitor and as a business visionary, I really don't think he has slowed down.
He has become more global, more universal, more rounded. It's like Bjorn Borg or anybody else. You are definitely into your game when you are and totally focused on one thing. But when you start having a family, you realize that there are more important things, and that human life which is coming out, and he just had the second child, as being a tremendous change for him, and I think that this is a great thing.
Even Bill Gates himself says family life has made him a more normal person, despite his notoriety and his wealth.
There's pluses and minuses of success. I get to meet some incredible people, work on very interesting problems. There's also some loss of privacy that comes with that, it's kind of a shame. Certainly I get a lot of time with my family. I've got a 3-year-old daughter and a 4-month-old son, and I'm very careful to put that aside and take time with them. And really, I'd have to say at this point, I never expect to say that that's the most fun thing that I do. And changing diapers and feeding kid bottles, those are pretty normal things.
Another change for Gates is his new interest in philanthropy and his $17 billion foundation.
And I'd probably say in the course of a month, I'd spend, 2.5 days on foundation thinking and opportunities. I get to meet some incredible people, these doctors who've devoted their lives to working on a particular disease that, I know nothing about, and understanding where a little bit of money can make a big difference for them. People who think really hard about the challenges in education, very tough set of problems there, but wonderful people who care a lot about it that I get a chance to talk to.
Bill Gates' major adversary in the battle for king of the computing world has been Larry Ellison of Oracle. Almost as rich, even more flashy, and certainly an ego match, Ellison has been seen as a visionary, perhaps seeing the internet computing model coming before Gates. But Ellison is also known as a tough guy to work for. Oracle president Ray Lane ought to know.
I worked for Ross Perot, remember. So 20 years ago, I worked for Ross Perot. Same thing. You get the good and the bad together. Okay, no human being is perfect. Larry I find to be not only a visionary, probably more so a tough businessman. So what he does is when he sees something that's right, he develops the idea, he simplifies the idea, and then he is laser focused at getting it accomplished. That is the secret to Larry, is laser focus. You can't get his attention when he's focused on doing something. He devotes all his time and energy to it. He'll stop doing everything else. Everybody thinks, oh my God, I've lost his attention. He's not working on it. He's not being a good CEO because he's only focused on this one thing. That's the secret to his success.
But the man whose picture is on the magazine covers is still Bill Gates. And Alex Vieux says, despite the court's ruling on Microsoft, Gates has gotten a bad rap in the press.
The press somehow had given an image of Gates in the past 4 years similar to the image that you had of Mellon, of Rockefeller at the beginning of the century, of somebody who was merciless. However, the way I've seen this gentleman for the past 15 years is totally different. He has never changed. He was mellow that way, sometimes shaved, sometimes not shaved, sometimes with a tie, sometimes with an open shirt. He has never changed in the past 15 years. But it's the perception, the public perception has been different.
As for Gates himself, he is acting more and more like the elder statesman of the computer industry, still aware of his power, but also aware that a new generation is taking over. At a public session here at ETRE, he was asked what advice he would give to young internet entrepreneurs in the audience.
Well, I remember when I was 22, Microsoft was 3 years old then. I wasn't in the practice of listening to guys who've been around 25 years.
One of the biggest investments Bill Gates has made personally has been a startup called Teledesic. This is an immensely ambitious project to ring the globe with some 60 low Earth orbiting satellites to create low-cost, wireless internet access for every spot on the Earth. Today's existing geostationary satellites are so far away from the Earth that even at the speed of light, there is too much latency for the reliable delivery of interactive data.
When you are undergoing an internet transfer, it takes about a half a second to get a bit back and forth. And when you do what they call the TCP/IP protocol, it requires many, many hundreds of transmissions back and forth. So there are many, many half a second, 500 millisecond transmissions. That reduces the efficiency of the internet itself, and it, in some cases, makes it not possible to have an interactive network.
There are some doubts, especially given the Iridium disaster, that Teledesic will work, but most analysts are optimistic.
I think it could be possibly the single best thing that's happened in the 20th century to the potential for economic development in the less developed parts of the world, if that were to happen. And I think it could really mess up the business plans of a lot of other kinds of telecom companies. And I think the fact that Craig McCaw and Bill Gates are involved at all, even though it's actually relatively minimal, gives it a lot of heft, and you can't ignore it. They got a guy running it who was on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. This is a significant operation.
Indeed, Bill Owens was the former commander of the 6th Fleet and the vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Alex Vieux of Dassar also thinks Teledesic is on the right track.
I think the network that they're putting together is going to be extremely powerful. They have shareholders who have deep pockets. They are learning from the Iridium mistake and snafu. They are learning from the military. They are working closely with Boeing, which has been associated with other deals like that. They're working with Motorola. So I think that there's a chance that Teledesic will succeed.
One of the most intriguing technology aspects of Teledesic is its ability to work with new set-top boxes that will have tons of memory on a chip. That could mean incredible web performance on your television set, using an approach called cached server technology.
You can broadcast thousands of websites, different websites in different areas because there are different beams, but you can broadcast thousands of websites to be stored in that chip. And therefore, it's right on your set-top box, and you can access that information real time. And it makes it look like and feel like you have a very large bandwidth.
With the advent of broadband internet connections, whether via Teledesic or another system, new kinds of content become possible. One technology that could take advantage of broadband is iPix, though this technology works right now at standard modem speeds. iPix is a system for creating 360-degree 3D images for transmission on the web. iPix software takes 2 images from any standard digital camera equipped with a fisheye lens and automatically stitches them together to create realistic, navigable virtual worlds on the web. Not only will broadband lead to new content on the internet, David Peterschmidt of Inktomy says his company believes it will lead to totally new applications on the net.
Broadband changes the fundamental use because broadband's always on. I don't have to log on. It's like turning a light switch or turning television on. that's going to increase usage dramatically. One of my board members was a very senior executive at Intel. He said, look, I'm a real savvy tech guy, right? I know this stuff. But he said, when I went to broadband access, it changed my behavior pattern. He said, I found myself going back, checking stuff a lot more frequently. So broadband is going to change some things.
If you think cell phones are big in the United States, try coming over here to Europe. Nearly everybody has a mobile phone. They work a lot better, and they do more than the phones do in the States. In fact, Europe is leading the way into the next generation of cell phones, when there'll be a lot more than just telephones, but powerful wireless network terminals.
Erwin Jacobs is the CEO of Qualcomm, one of the world's leading mobile phone companies. He says despite the ubiquity of cell phones, we are just seeing the tip of the iceberg in wireless communications.
Clearly, voice has been the major business for mobile telephony to date, and probably will be the major source of revenues for the next few years going forward. But data is becoming increasingly important. And once you begin to have the ability to access, well, your stock prices, to get information about restaurants, to get some websites that may be favorites, to have your personal information updated while you're on the move, it becomes very habit-forming. You really like to have that. And so whereas we'll probably for the next few years still use our telephones mostly for voice communications, the internet capability will become increasingly important.
There seems no doubt about the future of mobile phones. They will become wireless internet terminals. And Alex View believes that will be the final step leading to universal use of the internet.
A lot of people use the mobile phone, but if you add data to it, I don't think that many people will be able to avoid the mobile phone. And once you have the internet and you have been able one day to look at train schedule on your telephone, on the screen of your telephone, just by asking, browse into the net, that day will be the day when the internet will go global to everybody.
The operative word there is internet, not just World Wide Web.
The adding of not the web, but the net to telephones is incredibly exciting. This is not necessarily a HTML world, but an HTTP world. And the things that people are doing are phenomenal.
Indeed, Erwin Jacobs believes mobile phones will become more than net terminals. He sees the mobile phone as the wireless, portable PC of the future.
But we're going beyond that. We're actually, with the new chips that we put in our telephones and provide to many manufacturers, providing a second very powerful computer on the same chip. And so you can put any operating system in. And so today we think about simple operating systems, the Windows CE, the Palm, Symbian. I think you're going to have the most powerful operating system sitting in your telephone in the future, always communicating with the net and bringing whatever information and applications that you might need.
There were several new technologies on display here at ETRE that made mobile telephones and PDAs more appealing. This is the amazing stowaway collapsible keyboard for the Palm Pilot. It's small enough to fit in your shirt pocket, but it unfolds into a full-size IBM-style keyboard. Using the stowaway, your little Palm Pilot becomes a tiny, portable PC. No more need to use the stylus or graffiti for entering text. And when you're finished, just fold it all up and put it back in your pocket. The other cool mobile gadget here at ETRE was PhoneSync, a new product from a British company, Paragon Software. PhoneSync lets you sync up your cell phone to your desktop computer in the same way you synchronize a Palm Pilot. That means you can automatically take names from your PIM, like Outlook, and load them into the auto dial of your cell phone. And you can do the reverse, dump numbers from your cell phone into your contact manager. This ETRE conference took place the same week as the world's largest telecommunications trade show, Telecom 99, being held in Geneva, Switzerland. At that show, there were some amazing demonstrations of new mobile phone technology.
Probably the most exciting gadget in Geneva is being shown by companies like Kyocera, which actually make a lot of the wireless telephones already that are used worldwide. What they're showing are true video telephones. They're not much bigger than ordinary cellular phones. They have little color screens and little tiny cameras, and you can talk right into them and see the person that you're talking to. Now, the amazing thing about these is that they'll actually be for sale in Japan and operational within a year or so. That's how quickly that's happening.
Everyone here at ETRE was excited about the future of global mobile telephony, in part because there is such a huge potential for growth. Teledesic's Bill Owens explains.
It always impresses us that we are all talking about the internet, and we're talking about bandwidth and DSL and LMDS and satellites. And in fact, around the world, if you look at the 6 billion people, over half of them have never made a phone call. And so when you think about how you can get a capability to them, a basic capability for a quality phone line at low cost, then that's a big deal, separate from all of this gee-whiz technology that we're all talking about at these conferences.
The mobile phone future does not bode well for today's traditional telephone business. Indeed, Qualcomm's Irwin Jacobs thinks our grandchildren may not even know what a wired phone is.
Some people collect antique automobiles and antique furniture, so some people will keep a wired phone, but I can't really see much of a use for it in the future. Everybody likes to be mobile, not to be tied to one point, and now that you leave the phones on forever, people are using them for all of their communications. You used to think you wanted to dial a location and then have somebody, but now you know you can dial a person and catch up with them. And there will be a need to be able to filter so you don't get interrupted anywhere, and so you can respond back to a message. But that's, again, something that's well handleable. And so I think more and more we'll see wireless. Already, the number of wireless subscribers in some countries are greater than the number of wired.
That's it for this week's special coverage of the ETRE conference. We'll have more from Monaco coming up in a few weeks, including a look at privacy issues, the transition from PCs to information appliances, and the controversy over buying your way onto a search engine. For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Stuart Chaffee at the ETRE conference in Monte Carlo.
To purchase a videotape copy of today's program, call toll-free 1-888-310-7850. Please specify the show number and the topic.
The Computer Chronicles is brought to you by BigStar.com, with thousands of videos and DVDs for the whole family. Additional support by TechWeb for up-to-the-minute technology news. And by TVA, Television Associates, bridging the worlds of computers and video with DVD authoring and MPEG encoding services.